We're ready for point number 3. We need to check and make sure that the flow is well zeroed. And that's done on menu level 2, F2. And you'll notice if you arrow up, there's an option for None Pump Off. Go ahead and highlight that and press Enter. You should hear your pump turn off. In addition, you will see the flashing message that the pump has been turned off. Now we want to look at line B. The third parameter is flow. And you'll notice because that warning message is flashing, we cannot see that that parameter is flow rate. To make this warning message go away, we can press Control and the letter Z, and you'll notice the warning message has disappeared. Now I want you to take a look at your flow rate and make sure that it's within 2 micromoles of 0. And you can see that mine is reading -1.2. And that is close enough to being 0. Now that we can check the zeros for our CO2 and water ergas. CO2 and water are displayed on line A of the 6400 new measurements display. So you can go ahead and press the letter A to put them up on the screen. Now, to check the zeros, we need to make sure that our flow is set back to a fairly good flow rate. I will turn my flow rate back on and ask for a mid-range flow value of 500. I will now check for CO2 and water erga zeros. And the way to do that is to put line A on the top line. And then we want to put both of our chemical tubes in the full scrub position. And because we are going to check our sample erga as well as our reference erga, we need to close and latch our chamber properly. So let's demonstrate the correct way to latch your chamber. Begin with your chamber spacing apart and your handle closed. You'll notice on the handle that there is a tension adjust knob, and this regulates how much compression there is on the gaskets. And go ahead and turn that knob in the clockwise direction just until you can't see any more space between the gaskets. Then go ahead and open the chamber handle and give that knob one more complete rotation. And that's enough. It doesn't need to be any tighter than that. Then go ahead and close your chamber. And I will wait a couple of minutes for CO2 and water to drop to 0. Once you've waited a couple of minutes, you should see that CO2 reference and CO2 sample have dropped close to 0. What you may have noticed while waiting is that your reference dropped much quicker than your sample. And the reason for that is you have a much smaller volume in your reference erga than you do in your sample erga. And so it takes a little bit longer time for the concentration to be flushed out of your sample erga. You'll also notice the same pattern in your water erga readings. Your water reference will drop much faster than your water sample. As long as you've waited about 5 minutes for your CO2 reference to drop, and the readings are within about 5 micromoles of 0, that's good enough. We don't need to go and worry about adjusting them. For water reference and water sample, we want to see that our readings are within about 0.2 of a millimole per mole. If they're beyond that range, then for water, we recommend going ahead and waiting another 10 minutes or so, just to make sure that if there is some water in there, that it will allow an adequate time for it to be scrubbed. Water in particular takes a little bit longer to scrub than CO2. So we have to use a little bit more patience before we adjust the ergas. If you find that the ergas do need to be adjusted, then you can escape out of new measurements and go to the calibration menu where you'll find the erga 0 adjustment. However, if you have a new instrument or your instrument looks just fine, we'll go ahead and move on to our next checkpoint.